Welcome to Sitcom Showdown, a podcast that reviews classic sitcom episodes and inducts them into our very own Hall of Fame. As usual, one of us has chosen a sitcom episode and the other guy has no idea what it's going to be. Will they already know it? Will they love it? Can they be convinced that it's worthy? Let's find out on the Sitcom Showdown. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Sitcom Showdown. It's Jeffers here and Steve, you're standing over there.
I am over here.
Yes, and it's your turn.
Yeah, I'm super pumped.
All right.
We are in the new studio.
We are. Yes, I could spend a good 15 minutes talking about the new studio, but we'll perhaps save that for another time because we don't want to get me started.
No, well, I thought I might post a couple of pictures and
good, right.
Everyone can see what it's like. It's pretty spiffy.
Oh, cool.
Right, well, before I get to my selection, I wanted to mention that we heard from the outside world. We heard from Roy Baines, who posted on the Facebook page, and Roy said that we remind him of Danny Baker's Sitcom Showdown from 2005, which he appeared on representing Yes Minister. And so I went over to YouTube and checked it out. And yeah, there he is. Roy was... So it's what it was is a show that had two sides arguing each for its own sitcom. So this one was Yes Minister versus Blackadder. Yep, and that's Roy there. So they're all on YouTube if you want to go and check those out, folks. But yeah, if you just type those things in, you'll find it.
Cool.
So that was good to hear from Roy. Thanks for that.
And someone who's been on the telly.
Someone who's been on the telly.
Oh.
I don't know where he gets a similarity from between the TV show called
Sitcom Showdown. Well, the title.
And the podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Showdown.
I mean, we're no Danny Baker. Some people have called him, England's, the UK's greatest living broadcaster or something, which is probably a bit of a stretch. But, yeah, Danny Baker's great. But thank you.
Is it a good time to confess that I don't know who Danny Baker is?
Oh, you don't know who Danny Baker is? That's like the time you said you didn't know what QI was. And I had to tell you it was Stephen Fry. And I nearly threw you out of the lounge room. Well, I don't want to start off by throwing you out of the studio. Oh, look, and we've already wasted 2 minutes and 40 seconds on this.
All right. Okay, so I'll keep you in suspense no longer. I've chosen an episode of Open All Hours.
Oh, yes.
Called The Ginger Men. In fact, it was a bit confusing because in some places it's referred to as The Ginger Man.
Oh.
But I think it's actually The Ginger Men on the episode, so that's what I'm going with. Season 3, episode number 2. For those who don't know what Open All Hours is, it's about an avaricious, stuttering shopkeeper called Arkwright who chases profits and nurse Gladys Emmanuel.
He certainly does.
He does. While tormenting his daydreaming nephew and underling Granville.
Oh, poor Granville. Oh, well. It all turns out all right for him.
Well, does it or does it? Anyway, we can talk about that later if we've got time. So this was on the BBC network in the UK, and it ran for 4 series from 76 to 1985. Now, Ronnie Barker starred as Arkwright. He was born 25th of September 1929 and passed away on the 3rd of October 2005. And you know a fair bit about Ronnie Barker, Jeff. He was in The Two Ronnies. I don't know if that's his most famous work, but that was 71 to 87. And that was a sketch show rather than a sitcom, and that was with Ronnie Corbett. And then there was Porridge, which was a sitcom, and its sequel, Going Straight. He also did The Magnificent Evans and Clarence.
Yes.
So the last two probably weren't quite up there with Porridge and Open All Hours, would you say?
Yeah, and I'd never seen The Magnificent Evans, but you bought it for me on DVD years ago. But I enjoyed The Magnificent Evans.
It's interesting that all these characters are quite different from each other.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Uh-huh. And didn't that spring from he did a range of pilots in one series sort of thing? Are you mentioning that?
Yeah, so that's what I got next. That was called 7 of 1. And that was a series that aired on the BBC in 73. And that was 7 separate comedies that would serve as possible pilots for sitcoms, and Open All Hours is one of the ones that came out of that. So obviously they got some value out of that. David Jason, or should I say Sir David Jason, stars as Granville. He wouldn't have been... Was he a star at this point? Possibly.
And if he wasn't a star, he was certainly highly respected in the industry.
He was in Only Fools and Horses, but I don't know if that was before or after this.
No, it was after.
After, okay. And then The Darling Buds of May, A Touch of Frost, and Still Open All Hours.
Yeah.
As Granville as well. Linda Barron plays Nurse Gladys Emmanuel. She's got a very varied career. She's done children's TV. That was a show called Come Outside. She was in EastEnders.
Oh, really?
Yep. Still Open All Hours.
Yep.
And sitcoms, she did Oh No, It's Selwyn Froggatt and A Roof Over My Head. Neither of those I'd heard of before.
I've not heard of them.
No, possibly a bit obscure. Stephanie Cole appears as a regular, which is Mrs. Featherstone. Now, she's also got a very varied career. She was in Tenko, which was a drama set in World War II.
With Louise Jameson?
Yep, exactly. Waiting for God, which we might cover at some point down the track. Keeping Mum, I think that was another sitcom. Doc Martin, which we all probably heard of.
Yeah. And
Still Open All Hours again. And Man Down, which is that's a Greg
Davis,
Davis, yep. And Sylvia Goodwin in Coronation Street. And I also want to mention that she's in the radio sitcom written by John Finnemore, Cabin Pressure.
Ah, yes.
I mean, she's done so much stuff, eh? Amazing.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about now? Personal background to watching this sitcom.
Right.
Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, this is going to be another very hazy recollection, but it would just be the simple fact that at the point this would have come on the ABC here in Australia, there would have only been 3 stations and we were raised on the ABC, so if there's a funny new program coming on from one of the 2 Ronnies, our parents would have bunged it on and we would have watched it.
Yeah, they loved Ronnie Barker.
And it would have been great.
Yep.
So it's as simple as that on my end, but you might remember more clearly.
No, just that it was on free-to-air TV back in the day and that's where we watched it. And repeats, has it been?
Oh yeah, probably lots.
Probably repeated, and you've got some on DVD, is that right?
Yep, I've got it all on DVD. Have lost Series 2. Can't find the disc, still got the cover.
It's a tragedy.
Yes, and it wouldn't work in our DVD player either, so I had to watch it on computer. I watched it once, and I haven't been able to find the disc since then. So I don't know what happened.
Maybe you got upset and threw it away or something.
Oh, I could have done.
All right, well, we're going to go away and watch that then and be back shortly.
I hate that scrunching sound that errand boys make when you have to tread on them.
Errand boy? I thought I was assistant deputy manager. I've told everybody I'm assistant deputy manager. Unpaid.
Yeah. Well, whether or not you retain that lofty position depends entirely, you may be surprised to learn, on how fast you can shift genuine Jamaican ginger cake.
But I can shift it faster than you can say it. Here, genuine Jamaican ginger cakes? I mean, genuine. They've never been anywhere near Jamaica.
What's that got to do with it? We sell Mars bars, don't we? Anyway, you Hungarian people wouldn't know anything about a West Indian produce. Now, if it were a half-pounder, a slab of goulash, that might be different.
Now, don't start all that Hungarian business again.
Listen, it wasn't me who started giving the Hungarian the business, it was your mother.
Listen, you have no proof that I'm half Hungarian.
Well, from the waist down, you look very Hungarian to me.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, no, you wouldn't, would you? Of course not. I mean, Hungarians, they don't sit about all day looking at their bottom half saying, bye-bye, heck, that looks Hungarian.
And we're back from watching Open All Hours. Are you ready, Steve?
I am ready.
Oh, good.
I've got a synopsis of the episode, which I'll run through, Jeff. And,
okay.
If you want to add any bits in, go for broke.
Okay.
So Arkwright is out the front of the shop and he's updating the signage with a tin of paint and a brush. That's the area we're in.
Straight onto the window.
Straight onto the window. Granville comes outside and informs him there's no O in special. Seems pretty straightforward. And he says, I know that. And for the ones who can't spell, it doesn't matter. But also there's 28 clever dicks who would have walked straight by, but they'll feel obliged to come in, and then I'll have them. So this is just his latest scheme that he's got going on. And the next morning, following the standard open all hours structure, it's early in the morning, it's still dark, and Granville's still trying to pick up the milk lady when she comes past.
Yep.
There's some kind of unrequited love or lust there, and he never stops trying. They're having breakfast together, and Arkwright mentions...
Granville and the milk lady? No.
No.
Arkwright and Granners.
Of course. Arkwright mentions that he's overstocked on ginger cake, and that kicks the main plot off.
Yeah, there's no messing about.
No, straight into it. Granville finds this amusing, and Arkwright points out that he hates the scrunching sound that errand boys make when he has to tread on them.
Yeah.
Granville's not very impressed by this. He says, "Errand boy, I'm the assistant deputy manager." So he's
acting unpaid.
Yeah. He's the Dwight Schrute of English corner stores.
Oh, yes, okay. Except easier to live with.
Than Dwight.
Yeah.
And
fewer turnips.
I would think so. Turnips?
Oh, doesn't he grow? No, he grows beets, doesn't
he?
Yes. Oh, well, same thing. No, it's not. Yes, it is.
Root vegetables.
Yeah.
We're lumping them all together. Anyway, Granville casts doubt about the genuine Jamaicanness of Arkwright's ginger cakes, and Arkwright responds by casting aspersions about Granville's Hungarianness.
Yeah.
Which goes on for a while.
But that, it includes the brilliant Mars bar observation as well.
Yes.
So we sell Mars bars. They've never been to Mars. They don't come from Mars.
Yeah.
Don't give me this non-Jamaican ginger cake.
Yeah, doesn't
back
matter.
chat.
Doesn't matter that they've never been to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Sure enough, this bickering is interrupted by a customer who's come in wanting to correct the spelling on the window. Now, what would you say he's wearing, Jeff?
A balaclava.
Is it a balaclava? It's an fully open balaclava.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it's more of a... There's probably a more accurate term for it, but sort of, a ski mask with an open face, but it makes your ears all nice and toasty, and your neck.
Yep, it's quite an ensemble because he's paired that with glasses on a chain.
Yeah.
And fingerless gloves, so...
He does look a bit weird.
It's quite the fashion statement. Sure enough, he gets worked over and walks out with a box full of comestibles, and as he's leaving the shop, Nurse Gladys is getting ready to leave on her way out the door across the road.
Yep.
On her way to make a house call, and Arkwright complains to his fiancée about, again, unrequited love or lust. It's a bit hard to tell. Probably both. But she puts him in his place as usual and refuses to buy ginger cake when it's offered. She can see right through his schemes, right? Granville leaves to do some errands, and he's struggling up the hill, but he's passed by a moped. Well, he's huffing and puffing. This guy just zooms straight up the hill.
But you say zoom straight up the hill, but compared to Granville, he's dead set hooning. But if objectively speaking, it's a pretty gutless moped. It's struggling. It is a big hill, though.
Yeah, I don't know how many CCs it's got to it, but still not.
But
that
to Granville, it's like a Ferrari.
Well, he's loaded down with all these boxes, so he's got that to contend with as well. The widow Featherstone comes into the shop, buys 2 ounces of corned beef, and Arkwright's fingers are almost taken off by the vicious till, which is an ongoing joke.
Oh, yeah.
Granville returns with the broken down lawnmower. No, with the broken down lawnmower. He returns with a broken down lawnmower, which he's picked up. And he's determined that he's going to get this going, and he will attach it to the
shop bike
to make his life easy, and he's going to zoom up those hills. Shouldn't forget to mention that Arkwright casually drops ginger cake into the conversation that he's got going with Mrs. Featherstone.
He drops it into every conversation.
Into every conversation. He works it in there. Bert the baker, I guess he's Bert the baker, comes in and he spills buns everywhere because he's tripped over this lawnmower that Granville's left on the floor.
Oh, yes.
Dripping oil. Anyway, Arkwright works out that he's going to get them for cheap, and he does. And then his next thing is to put a sign up which says that due to the unprecedented demand for ginger cake, he's got to limit them to 1 cake per customer.
And again, it's a brilliant scheme.
How so?
Well, no, it's just, you create artificial demand for something.
Yep.
So if you say it's in short supply, apparently this is what salespeople used to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've only got 1 left, they'll say, with a storeroom absolutely chock-a-block with stuff.
Yep. Well, he tells Julie that the Japanese are buying them all up and using them as pillows or standing on them at sporting events. And anyway, so he practically forces one on her. He basically pops it in her bag, says, "Go on, have one," and then says 47p.
Yeah. And this is the thing, though, is that if you're an Arkwright customer, you've got to be very strong. So when the other chappie came in, who I think, not Cyril, he was the first guy, but the second guy, he's a lot more combative and he doesn't take any guff.
Yes, this is Cyril who comes in now.
And he says, "What the hell would I want with ginger cake?" which leads to a great line. But basically he just keeps spurning him.
Department.
And spurning him and spurning him and spurning him. And so you can just see Arkwright's brain kick into a higher gear of manipulation And he just ups his scheme, and it's a joy to behold. But yeah, sorry.
Well,
continue.
Cyril is the town gossip, right? So he knows that if he can find the way in, then Cyril will spread the word
all over town,
and he'll have solved the oversupply problem. So he hits on his masterstroke. He says that this ginger cake comes
You're
from...
struggling.
I'm struggling. I can't get my lips around it. This ginger cake comes from the land of throbbing drums, the land of tropical heat, the land of strong weed. Yeah. Throw away your powdered rhino horn.
Yeah.
So he's intimating that this ginger cake's a powerful aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, gentlemen are coming into the store to buy ginger cake wearing dark glasses, caps pulled down.
Like they're going into the adult store or something.
Dark glasses, yeah, like they're going into the adult store. And they're asking for it to be wrapped in a plain wrapper.
Yeah.
Granville's ready to try out his upgrade to the shop bike. So he takes that outside. Meanwhile, one of the ginger men has slipped into the shop to buy a cake. And you get a bit of bants between Arkwright and Nurse Gladys outside. Cyril comes around the corner extolling the virtues of the ginger cake, wants another one. And Granville, he has to go follow the
ginger man into
the shop to make the sale. Anyway, he comes back out and he realises they're talking about the ginger cakes. And he says, I've just sold the last one.
And they look panicked.
And Arkwright and Cyril both chase this guy who's trying to be as not noticeable as possible. They start chasing him down the street.
He's furtive, isn't he?
He's furtive.
That's the word.
He's panicked. So he sprints off and they're chasing him. Now, why do you think Arkwright is chasing...
Because maybe, I don't know. Has he done a price rise? Does he think he can...
I think that's got to be it. He's realised that he can probably start charging these for about £5 each or something like that now.
But even so, it's his last one. So how much of a profit is he going to make? But also maybe because Cyril's a good customer and he wants to keep him going and keep him telling everyone, extolling the virtues of the ginger cake, whereas this bloke who's just walked in off the street isn't a valued customer and he doesn't care if he... I don't know.
Maybe he's going to take that ginger cake and slice it up into
30
parts
selling
and
thirds.
Sell each one for 47p.
Good call. Oh, we can only speculate.
Yes. Send us your speculations. Okay, Nurse Gladys and Granville watch these guys run off down the road. And then, sure enough, the engine falls off the shop bike before he can even get it going. So they exchange a look, which I think pretty much sums up Granville's success in life, doesn't it?
Yep.
The engine's fallen off his life, so to speak. As he gets, he's just going to be in this shop forever, isn't he?
Oh, yes. And he does.
Being dominated, until he gets to turn the tables and eventually do the same thing to someone else. Yeah,
Leroy. But he's got no time to, he's probably serving in the shop 14 hours a day or something ridiculous. So, like, let's say 6 a.m. till 10 at night or whatever. Yep. He doesn't have time to fix up shop bikes or work on his image or read a book or anything.
Yeah, there's no...
Poor chappie.
There's no envelope to improve yourself.
No.
It's a bit sad. Then there's the traditional closing, which is Arkwright stepping outside to pack things away late at night. And he has a bit of a monologue. He says a prayer, like a shopkeeper's prayer. And there's a funny little bit at the end about soon you and I will be the only ones that aren't nationalised or a limited shares company or something like that. So there's a bit of a political statement at the end. And you kind of get the impression that Roy Clark, who wrote this, must have had a bit of a love affair with the classic corner shop. So that's our synopsis.
Classic stuff. Yeah, I'm sure we'll go into reasons where both of us go on about why it's classic stuff.
All right, do you want to start us off with a comment?
Well, look, I've got very few notes because, well, firstly, it's tough to write down the gags because usually, let's say there's a 2-minute conversation between Arkwright and a client. The whole conversation is just layer upon layer of excellent gags.
Yep.
Little funny lines by Arkwright, but the way the whole thing is structured and something at the end will pay off something at the beginning, which means it's very difficult for me to sit here and say, oh, well, I thought the gag where blah, blah, blah happened was, and it's going to take me 3 minutes to explain what it is.
Yep.
So I just gave up writing notes at that point. But for example, so you've got the sign correction scene where his trap of spelling special wrong brought a customer into the shop to correct him on the thing. Now let's say that plays out for 3 minutes. There's so much genius stuff in there, but when you're doing the synopsis, you don't have time. So you breezed straight through that and said he corrected him and da-da-da-da-da.
Yep.
But it's a goldmine. So there you go. And it's also the physical acting by Ronnie Barker as well, where it's just the facial expressions and the way he delivers stuff. So in the hands of lesser actors, this might not come off as well as it does.
Yep.
Anyway, so that's my main comment.
He's a dead set genius.
He is a dead set genius. And also the same thing with the cheap buns scene where the guy comes in and delivers the bread onto the floor. Like, that whole scene is also brilliant as well. And it's completely unnecessary to the plot, but it gives you such a great insight into who Arkwright is and how he works and how smart he is.
Yep.
And and again, you weren't able to expound on that. You just had to breeze through it, or we'd be here for 2 hours. So yes, that's my general comment, is that even if we don't do a good job of doing it justice here, people owe it to themselves to check it out. So yes, but I'll chip in as you go along.
All right. I want to start by talking about the structure of the thing.
Right.
I like the way that we start the day before the sun comes up with Granville out the front yawning, and he, even though he's obviously really tired, he immediately switches into the mode of trying to catch the milk lady. And then we end the day by Arkwright generally threatening to pay a visit to Nurse Gladys, and he was going to try and show her his elbow.
Which is all very innocent.
Yeah,
on the surface.
She rebuffs him on that. So he's out there at the end of the day to bring the display in and closes in this prayer. So I like the way that you start the day with Granville, you end the day with Arkwright, and they're both chasing ladies at the start of the end of the day, which is the very small envelope they've actually got to have
interact.
A life. Because they're open all hours, right?
True.
I like the way the flow of the show goes, where one character will come in as one's on the way out, and you just get this turnover of people coming in, people coming out. And also the way they go inside and outside the shop is pretty seamless.
Oh, yeah.
You got any comments on that?
No, only that I agreed with the first part of what you were just saying. So in my notes, it just says, love the end of episode reflective bits in voiceover while you see him packing up the shop. Mm-hmm. It's very nice. And because it's him speaking to himself or the higher power or whatever it is, it's honest. Whereas when he's in the shop interacting with people, half the stuff that's coming out of his mouth is lies or manipulations.
Only half?
Oh, okay, 3/4. But, so he's not bantering with people. It's just his honest, genuine thoughts, which really makes you like him all the more.
Yep.
So it shows he reflects on his life and he does these things. That's really nice.
Okay, well, let's talk a bit about his character then.
Okay.
He's a great character. He's a driven man. He's tormented by the need to sell. In fact, there's a scene where, I think it's at breakfast time, he says, he's obviously just been serving a lady, and he says, she can't afford half the things I sell her. And Granville says, well, why do you sell it to her? He says, I try not to, but I can't help myself. So he's tormented by the need to sell. He's tormented by the need to train Granville in the ways of the shopkeeper. And also to get his hands on Nurse Gladys's comestibles.
Yep.
In this episode, it's a great example because he's got ginger cake on the brain.
Yeah.
And Granville says to him, you've just been obsessed with this ginger cake lately. It'll be, good morning, Mrs. Ginger Cake. Nice ginger cake we're having for the time of year, isn't it? And how's your oldest ginger cake? And he tries a different tactic on each new person who comes through the door.
He's like a brilliant psychologist who can just see into the heart of people and know what drives them and then completely exploit the hell out of them.
Yep.
And try and sell them something to solve whatever problem it is. Or if they haven't got a problem, he'll invent one that they should have, and then he'll convince them they've got a problem that can be solved with ginger cake or clothes pegs or whatever it happens to be. Or, a lantern for the frats.
But even the people that he knows he's not going to be able to sell it to, like Nurse Gladys and Mrs. Featherstone.
He can't help it. He still has
He's indomitable. He's determined to have a go. So he eventually strikes gold. And you just see this improvisation of Arkwright, which is exactly what you were just saying, trying out the different ways to sell a ginger cake. Also, the improvisation when what was his name? Bert the baker. Trips over the rolls. He seizes the opportunity immediately to get a discount. And shuts Granville up at just the right time.
Oh, totally. So straight away, he's not rattled by this, what would otherwise be a disaster. And so he immediately, deliberately clouds the issue of who's at fault
Yep.
And he gets a discount on the buns. But, like, not only is he willing to rip off the poor guy who he's put a lawnmower right in front of, but then he's going to sell the buns to the... Yeah. We were witnesses.
You kicked it in off the street.
Oh, unbelievable. But, like, even just such an outrageous lie, if you can cast enough doubt and put the person on the back foot enough. Anyway, yeah, and then he'll just sell them to the customers, even though they've been on the floor anyway. He doesn't care.
Well, he keeps the shop very tidy. I mean, we start the
Granville
whole episode...
keeps the shop very tidy.
Yeah, well, someone does. He's got Granville feather dusting the top shelf.
And
I can imagine the floor probably gets swept and mopped twice a day or something like that.
Oh, you think so? You've got to keep Granville busy, these young people, you know, idle hands and all that sort of business.
Yep.
So, yes.
So, continuing on with his character, he's got this stutter, which is just comedy genius, the way that Ronnie Barker does it. It's frustrating to the character, though.
Yeah.
Because he gets in the way of him trying to sell stuff. He doesn't seem like a nervous character, though, so...
No.
Why does he have a stutter? I don't know. It's just funny, maybe.
Yeah. And it's what you're saying about him not being a nervous person, so that's a part of his character. So all I wrote, Arkwright's in utter control of his kingdom.
Yep.
And if he's not, he's certainly working on it. And you know eventually he's going to gain control of whatever it is, i.e. Nurse Gladys Emmanuel, or Grenville's love life, or whatever the problem is that week. He'll turn things around to be the outcome that he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very focused on selling, but he's also super playful and humorous as well at all times. And he's actually so happy and so in control. It's almost like he creates these little problems to keep himself occupied.
Oh.
Anyway, sorry, where were we?
So he's complimented well by Granville, who's a complete dreamer. He doesn't seem able to get ahead in life, but like I say, that's probably because he doesn't get a spare minute to himself to do anything. And Granville seems pretty resistant to Arkwright's lessons in life.
Yeah.
Even though it's obviously, I don't know, is it canon that is the second series canon in terms of what happened?
I guess so.
Can we say,
from memory?
Can we say definitively on the...
Oh, what, when you say the second series, you mean Still Open All Hours? Oh, yeah. Completely.
So we can say that Arkwright's lessons sunk in
totally
somewhere along the line. Okay.
Yeah, and maybe genetically Granville's inner miser came out at some point in life when he realised he wasn't going to have big adventures.
So at some point the switch was flipped and...
Yeah, or maybe when Arkwright died and he inherited everything, he goes, oh my goodness, and he's just overwhelmed by he was struck by the clarity of why you want to be a miserly, money-grubbing shopkeeper. Who knows?
Interesting. Then there's Nurse Gladys, who can resist him quite easily, and Mrs. Featherstone, who... Well, do you remember an episode where Mrs. Featherstone basically cracks on to Arkwright?
Oh, yeah.
Like she's attracted to his miserliness.
Completely, and that's a big thing in the whole Still Open All Hours as well.
Is it?
It's a massive part of Still Open All Hours. She's really putting the screws on him.
Chasing Granville, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Totally, because Granville inherited the great kingdom of wealth from Arkwright.
Right.
But this is the thing I was saying to you off air earlier, is that the actors... So you've got, Nurse Gladys and Mrs. Featherstone and Granville. The actors are only 2 years apart in age, all three of them. But on the show, obviously, Mrs. Featherstone and Nurse Gladys are meant to be a generation older than him. It's a weird thing with David Jason because he can play what we assume is a 19-year-old Granville at age 35. And when he was 27, he was cast in the late 60s. Well, they approached him to play... Corporal Jones in Dad's Army, who's a character in his 70s or whatever.
No way.
Yeah, and so they were convinced, because David Jason was such a rising star and so good, that he could play this super old character, but then David Jason went off and did something else, and they cast Clive Dunn.
Wow.
So there you go. So he's super young, can play old. He's old, can play young. What a dude.
Yes. I'm going to go on to some gags now.
Okay.
Before I do that, specifically though, Jamaican Ginger Cake just sounds so funny. And then you add the spice-based aphrodisiac humour. Yeah. It just becomes an amazing thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's by accident or whether they were trying to, they had a whole...
I don't know, I guess he probably came up with the idea of ginger cake first and then just thought, what's some kind of nationality or something like that
we can put on it?
Sounds completely ridiculous when you stutter it out or something like that. Anyway, that's funny. Oh, and another kind of obtuse one is the fact that we've got the shopkeeper chasing the milk lady, whereas milkmen were supposed to chase housewives
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Well observed.
I don't know. That just popped into my mind. Anyway, yeah, so there was the gag where, let's get into some gags now. The one where Granville's complaining that these ginger cakes have never been near Jamaica. And like you said, Arkwright says, it doesn't matter. We sell Mars bars, don't we? They've obviously never been to Mars.
Yeah.
And at the end of the conversation about Granville's Hungarianness, he says, the door. Obviously someone's come through the door and the bell's gone off, and Arkwright says, don't you go, Hugo, I'll go.
Because what did he say? Granville's Hungarian from the waist down.
Yeah,
so the top half is called Granville and the bottom half
could be something
Hugo.
weird like Hugo. Yeah.
And that's the nature of the gags, is that it's all peppered in throughout that 2-minute conversation, and then you get a massive further payoff at the end.
Yeah, that's
It's
brilliant
great.
one. There's a bit where Granville's come in with the lawnmower, and Mrs. Featherstone's there, and Arkwright complains to Mrs. Featherstone that he's been trying to raise a buyer all these years, but he's raised a seller instead.
And he looks so genuinely concerned.
Yeah.
But he's still in performance mode. And
Yeah, no, he's got this horrified look on his face until Bert trips over with the buns. Is it Granville's drilling or something like that at the back? Julie's in there, and Arkwright complains to Granville that he's got a lady in here who can't hear herself change her mind.
yeah. And poor old Julie. You give her more than one choice, and she is hopeless with it.
Yeah, he is kind of cute with her, though. He domineers her by shoving the ginger cake in her purse or her bag, but
but he does care, and he looks after her and all that sort of stuff.
He's still quite nice to her.
Yeah.
And then the last one I had was he's having this prayer at the end of the day, and he says about forgiving them their trespasses, Lord, especially those under the influence of ginger cake.
Yeah. Which was his fault in the first place.
Which is hilarious. I've run out of gags now.
Okay, well...
Have you got some more?
Yeah, totally. And just super subtle ones. So at the very opening scene where Granville's just been chatting up the milk lady, and he's got a milk bottle in each hand and walked in, and, he's just strolling in, still all sleepy, and Arkwright says, "Come on, Granville, get the feather duster out and do the tops of those shelves." And poor old Granville's come back as well. I've only got 2 hands. And then he goes, ooh, does a big yawn. And then all of a sudden this feather duster's shoved in his mouth. So he's just solved the 2 hands problem.
Yep, it appears out of nowhere.
Yeah. So it's a nice visual gag, but it also comes from the dialogue is the whole thing. So yeah, I'm overthinking it, but it's a gag like that might slip by, but when you rewatch it and you go, oh, it's brilliant.
I love the milk bottles with the foil caps.
Oh, yes.
Classic.
I remember the good old days when you'd have it delivered to your house, milk bottles, which in Australia isn't very practical.
Not on a 40-degree day, no.
No. Even in the morning, it's 27 degrees at 7 in the morning.
Yep.
Goodness knows why they did it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I've got some other gags here. When he's obviously not selling ginger cake
it's piling up.
To nurse Gladys Emmanuel, he's still trying, even though he's not going to sell any, but it's almost like he practices neuro-linguistic programming, because he has to make it saucy, his conversation with her, in order to implant these visual cues in her head that she's going to come around. So he's extolling the virtues of the ginger cake, and he goes, yes, ginger cake, it's lovely with a bit of butter on it, but aren't we all?
Yep.
And so he's just conjuring up this image of him and Nurse Gladys and the butter and anyway. Yeah. So he can't help it, but he's just such a manipulator. But God, it was funny the way he delivered that.
You can see he was heading down that train of thought.
Well, and this just
as an
popped out.
aphrodisiac. And I think through the conversation with Julie, he kind of was hitting on some similar points.
Yeah.
So he was on that wavelength.
So the idea was percolating in his mind, and then it came out fully formed when Cyril came
Something like that.
I haven't got any other gags written down, but the only points I've got left are, it's just when he's out the back with Granville, and obviously he is the master in the shop relationship, but they both can deal out the crushing wit to each other as equals, and so I think they are equals, and Granville sticks up for himself, and he gets sort of a kindly ribbing from Arkwright, and they do feel like equals, just not in the shop hierarchy.
Yep.
So I reckon that's a brilliant way he's raised Granville there, because if he was domineering in all ways, Granville just wouldn't be able to live with him and he'd walk out. But, it's just, I love the way they interact together. It's beautifully written. And it's all just great character-driven stuff.
I think Nurse Gladys kind of mediates that relationship.
Yeah,
A bit in other episodes, doesn't she?
that's true.
Like she'll rein Arkwright in when he's domineering a bit too hard and all that sort of stuff.
True.
There you go.
What else do you got?
No, that's it.
Oh, right, you're at the end.
I'm at the end. I was a bit nervous because usually when I tell my wife what I'm about to try and get across the line, she'll go, oh, she'll groan when I tell her or something like that. But she said, I think this one it'll get through.
Oh, and so you took that as a portent of doom, did you?
Yeah, I was like, no, this doesn't sound right.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm used to having no enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And going in, what does it mean when she's enthusiastic about it?
Oh, disaster.
So what's the answer?
All right, so I was going to say, do you want to pop the question, so to speak?
Yeah, sure. All right, we're going to put it into the Hall of Fame?
Undoubtedly. Yeah, you have to. It's brilliant. It's pure genius. I could just go on with lots more praise for it, but there you go. But yeah, great character-driven stuff. I'm reading from my notes now. Top acting, subtle and clever script. I mean, what else do you need? And it rewards endless rewatching, which is brilliant.
What we've done.
Yeah, exactly.
It certainly stuck with me for some reason.
For lots of good reasons.
Yes. Thanks for letting me share that.
Thanks for bringing
putting
it
in.
Yeah, look, no worries. It's a great way to christen the new studio. So I hope this turns out well so that we can do justice to the Ginger Cake episode.
A great episode.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. All right. Well, we'll be back in about another fortnight, do you think?
I reckon, if we're not struck down with more colds and other allergies.
Yes, I have been ill, so we're a week behind, but it's still 2 episodes in the month of June. So no one's being shortchanged, Arkwright style.
No.
We wouldn't do that to you.
No, we put Leno and Woodley out, and that was an interesting one.
Yes, well, we'll say no more. And we'll press on to episode 32 whenever that comes out. So, yes, thanks for tuning in once again. And as usual, all our contact details will be in the outro music.
Yes, to follow.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
Yep, see ya.
Join us next time on Sitcom Showdown when we'll be putting another 5-star episode under the microscope. And in the meantime, you can contact us with feedback on Facebook, Twitter @Sitcom Showdown, or by email sitcomshowdown@gmail.com.